Hey, welcome to ScreamRockMosh 10-year anniversary top 10s list. I made a list of 10 topics of my career with Las Vegas music scene. It there are 10s list, but we're counting from number 10 to the number one most important list. There's a lot of lists to be made, but these top 10 lists of 10 things are gonna be for the 10-year anniversary. And as we go on with this series of videos of disclosing my top 10, I'll be filming shirts that I wore in past videos of mine. And especially with my top favorite songs, I'll be wearing shirts from each band on that list. But and if I don't have a shirt from a band, I wear like one of my favorite shirts for that video. But to kick this off, we're doing the top 10 all-time favorite bands / musicians. And for this list, at number 10 will be Fear of Static. Fear of Static was, or is, a favorite band of mine. I caught them at the show I was supporting for a band at the church. And they were so great that I went up to them and gave them credit for how they were on stage. And since they were that excellent, I supported them pretty much all of their shows most of the time. And I believe that their music was that great. It was cool. I was able to get a t-shirt by Steven. Also, their debut album from the studio at the Palms, I think it was made from. And from that, it was cool working with them at the Artisans. But all of them, Tony, Steven, and Ian, they're really great musicians, being very solid for the genre, and that's why they landed at number 10 for this list. At number 9 will be Burnout Society. They are a great punk band that's very metal influenced. Every time I go to their show, I always mosh to them and done pretty much a lot of crazy stunts during their shows. But as for listening to them, their music has evolved from their own recording being demos to a studio recording, and especially the directions of their sound has been that great to be an all-time favorite of mine. I've always listened to their music quite as frequent as I do with all the other musicians I work with, but I would do as much more than I would. And for them to be an all-time favorite of mine is great for how they are punk, especially putting my body on the line for them when they have their concerts. But it's pretty cool to have Burn Society being my number 9, being an all-time favorite band of mine. At number 8 goes to State of Decay. They were a hardcore band back in the day with the music scene, and they go hard for the musicianship and like how they're presented on stage to the concert floor. Hardcore dancing goes like over the top for them, and listening to their music was great. One of the best hardcore bands to listen to back in the day, and they really had a lot of great songs that I like, especially getting one of their records from the show at Eagle Area Hall. It's cool for them to be at number 8, especially being a band back in the day. Their musicianship was definitely a favorite of mine to listen to. Even had their songs on repeat, got in their EP. And for how they were hardcore was definitely a favorite to like back then. And number 8, all-time favorite, goes to State of Decay. The 7th band being my all-time favorite is Amen for Dawn. They go way back when I first started with the music scene, and it's really great how they sounded to be a favorite of mine. I would always put A New Chapter on repeat a lot for how great it sounds, especially how heavy it is and how things were by Ryan. And their music definitely evolved throughout the years when they were around, from the Box Office to the Sanctuary number 2. And listening to them all the time was great, especially for their kind of genre. And they definitely had that good heavy and clean side of them, which was pretty great. And for Min for Dawn being number 7, uh, it was definitely a great choice to have them in that spot. Number 6 goes to Almost Awake. They were one of the bands I worked with throughout my years in music scene, in like past like the 5th year or so, and they're a really excellent band that was a part of the music scene, and with all the collective members of Gabe, Tommy, Addison, Grady, Victoria, they were pretty excellent for how they were as a band, spanning from The Explorer until Tomorrow, and that demo they had from St. Headliner to that Skeleton or their recording studio like EP, and then Dizzy and Pretty Little Things. I hope I said that one right. But I really like how excellent they were as musicians to be a favorite of mine. I have many favorite songs of them throughout those EP, not EPs, for the records. The Explorer, I liked it. Paradise, Until Tomorrow. There's a lot. Damn. Fading Intruder, that's from the Explorer too. But I guess Glass Houses was good from there. And then, their latest record before they come up with Busy. But they were that excellent to be number 6 for this list. And I always like listening to them a lot, especially how they were like Paramore in a way, but their own unique ways of being musicianship, of how Victoria arranges and Grady's guitar skills, and also Addison's energy, him performing, Tommy on bass, and Gabe with his good drumming. It was very like great, but then Bryson came along and he's like crazy on time, but Gabe was excellent on drums for how he was, especially how he was in all the records. But for number 6, Almost Awake, I mean my all-time favorite is pretty tight to say for them being that excellent. Number 5 goes to Own It Inc. This was quite the battle actually in 2 places. It was either Almost Awake getting the spot and all, but Own It Inc. Prevailed over them. And like pretty much like my background in music, I liked hip hop first before liking rock and metal. As much as I like hip hop, Tyler and Brandon definitely had a lot of bangers for their songs. It can go heavy as fuck for how they do rap, and then it could go soft and chill and like quite meaningful in a way, with their songs being not as heavy. But yeah, like they are a favorite of mine being at number 5 because Brendan has a voice for hip hop that pretty much fit the genre pretty well. Then you have Tyler, who has a background in music from being heavy going to hip hop. And I think for musicians to switch genres, Tyler made a really excellent switch that is actually being very impactful for his efforts being in the hip hop scene. And yeah, I like a lot of songs by them. I listen to them actually way more compared to like many of the bands I work with. And yeah, kind of listen to them way more than Almost Awake because how much they're being rapped. But for them being at number 5, it's cool to say Tyler and Brendan producing really great rap songs, and for those songs to be a favorite of mine. The number 4th spot goes to Nocturnal Burial. They were a band that I was with I think in the time before ScreamRockMosh. Like I didn't work with them before, or I haven't worked with them at all. But before my entry to the music scene, they were one of the bands I hanged out with, and I eventually worked with them later. They became Avenir and Pershua later in the years in the music scene. But a Nocturnal Burial had one of my like a newly experienced in the music scene. And it was cool seeing them at the farm almost hitting a pole, moshing to them. But I've always listened to them a lot for like how new they were to me before starting the music scene. And I still have their record too. It's like a demo in a way. And I think it was the same show. I got my head stomped during Blended to Death at Suicide Silence at the farm. I wrote like my passwords on there because I had like way too concussion and I was worrying I was not gonna remember my passwords because getting my head stomped. But aside from that, it was always great listening to them. Being new to the music scene, we were around all these musicians. Even though I didn't work with them before, and it would have been cool. It was great being a fan, and one of the bands I liked it to be at the number 4 spot. Now for the number 3 spot, this of course goes to Chris Findesley, the first band I ever worked with in the music scene. And at the same time, Lieutenant Burial was around. I always pretty much listened to the music class for the members of them were like good friends of mine. And pretty much for the band I started out with will of course be a favorite of mine, especially being band number 1 from all 104 bands I'm working in my career with music for the past 10 years. And it was always great hanging out with them and seeing how their music were at all times. And like I could have been a part of that band, but I chose this path which defined my career 10 years in the making. But Crucified and Slave were great. I liked it how they were as musicians evolving, especially Ian and Tyler. They still have careers now in doing stuff, especially in Exaltation, being black metal. But starting out on ScreamRockMosh with a death metal band definitely gave my business a lot of me, especially the moshing aspect. I do that outside of filming and all. But I really liked their music. It was cool to listen to their music a lot and being at all their shows. Like pretty much the first band I supported fully, as I do now with other bands. But they are a favorite of mine, and it's cool to put them at number 3, being an all-time favorite of mine. Number 2 goes to We Gave It Hell. I was a big We Gave It Hell's fan back in the day, and they definitely put out like a lot of great favorites of mine for their time in the music scene. And to name a few, The King Will Fall was a favorite song. Anchors, Fine Night was cool. Under Lock and Keys, and and some other songs too. But We Give It Hell was definitely a favorite of mine, being at number 2. And they definitely play great live. And it was cool understanding how they were, especially for them being on bigger shows. And all from To Extreme Thing to Vinyl, House Blues and all that. And I was much as a fan that I did some work with them when I was in high school. Never got paid for the work, but it's like me building up my resume back in the day. But aside from that, they definitely produced great songs that were favorites of mine. And I listened to them a lot too in that time. They were in the music scene. And for them at being number 2 is good. And I'm glad to say that We Give It Hell definitely was a favorite band of mine in the early days in the music scene. Now for the number 1 spot of being my all-time favorite band or musician with the music scene, which is crazy to say as number 1 from all these talents and all that I've ever seen on stage and heard on the record. This would of course, or this does go to Apex Athlete. Throughout this whole list, I have my band wall here, and their poster from their Saltwater EPs over there, and their letter to me, and all, which is really great. Thanks again, guys. And Apex Athlete is my number 1 all-time favorite band in the music scene, and they were, I guess, ahead of their time, because I caught them quite early on-ish, quite in the middle-ish in my time with the music scene, from Choices Pub to Ultra not Ultra, it was Ultra Revolution, or well, Southern Nevada Sports Center when we had our last show. But yeah, I've always listened to her like a lot back in the day, like like way much, and yeah, I have the Flying Machine album, and of course Saltwater EP. But the early records were actually definitely great too. The guitar musicianship was was way phenomenal, and especially Adam singing was definitely great. And I definitely like adore their music a lot when they're around. And for them being number one, it's really uh, good to say for this list. And the number one spot definitely means a lot, I guess. I'm gonna say it's Apex of Athlete.